This is our problem, I think, at the moment with the team, because I can't really see a standout contender for it, I don't, if you look at, I think 3 players you could probably look at, it would be Xhaka, the more experienced players, are Socrates and David Luiz. I don't think none of them are guaranteed starting every week. And I think that as a captain, you've got to have, like going back in your day, Tony Adams was captain, you knew that if he was fit, he was going to play. I don't think you can say that about these guys now. It's a real tough question, you know what I mean? If I'll be honest, going on that sort of way of thinking, I would go Leno in a moment because he's the only one I think is regular that can play. Lacazette, I think it could be another candidate, but I'm not too sure if Emery fancies it. I'm a little bit worried about that situation.
There's a bit of a question mark on that one, isn't there? I mean, for me, Lee, I'd give it David Luiz. I'd give it David Luiz and he's the newest, he's the latest player to come in. And all that stigma of the 5 captains the previous season and all that, let's put that all aside.
Get rid of it.
Give him the captaincy and we could get on with it. I don't think Socrates will play once Holding's fit. Honestly, I don't think he'll play. Lacazette, we're not too sure if Lacazette's going to start a lot of the games because I believe Lacazette is a top player and he is essential to be getting the best out of Aubameyang and Pepe. I really do. Why? Because he's so good with his back to goal. He holds that ball up and he allows players to get into position. He's vital to what we do. Could you give him the captaincy? Yes. Does Unai Emery fancy him every week? By the looks of things, no, he doesn't. Or is it just because he's carrying a knock, he was carrying a knock previously or whatever? I don't know. I'd give it to David Luiz and we move forward. Really good question,
Brilliant question.
Joe. Really good question. Do you know, I've looked at different permutations in midfield and Ceballos could play beside Torreira. He can play beside Willock. So he not only can he play the number 10, he can play 2 of the sitting midfielders as well. So Mesut Ozil, I could see him playing as a number 10 to be able to feed the front 3, but you've got the insurance policy of the 2 lads behind him. That's the only place I see Mesut Ozil playing, because I don't see him having the legs or the tenacity to play in these 2 kind of holding more reassured positions.
Yeah, well, I agree, but and so what we're saying there is he's going to be more of a squad player.
Yeah.
Really 350 grand a week squad player.
Yeah, but the mistake was made previous.
Yeah.
So we've got to live with that.
It's a tough one, really. I think at times, we could be a little bit more adventurous and have just the one holding midfielder. If when we're playing someone who's got 10 men behind the ball and we're trying to break them down, when you then can get Ozil and Ceballos in the team, I think that could possibly happen. But if I'll be honest, I'm with you, Kev. I actually see him being a squad player, playing the Europa League games, giving Ceballos a break. And I don't want... the one thing I don't want to see him play is like previous times with managing all that, putting him out on the wing just to get him into the team.
Just to get him a game.
I'm not having that. You know what I mean? He's got to earn his place and come in there. And listen, he's going to have the opportunities with the games when we come back from international duty, when it's Saturday midweek, and then the weekend. So he's going to get his games, and I think that he's got to prove himself again. And if he does and starts performing, then it can only be beneficial for Arsenal. But at this moment in time, I see him behind Ceballos in that sort of number 10 role.
Yeah.
And away from home, I see Willock playing that in front of him. So, that's, I guess, a difficult job for the manager to do, but that's how I see it.
Hey, good question, Baz. That's a really good question. I think the best piece of advice I ever got was from Pat Rice. As a 16-year-old, coming through the ranks, and, it was Pat Rice, FA Cup winner, Arsenal captain, stuff. He said to me, this isn't any old club. He said, I know you support the club. He said, but now you're on the inside of the club. He said, this club is an institution. And this is a football institution that you have to understand and you have to learn what it means to be an Arsenal player. And once you understand, once you get your head around that, I never look back. Because from the outside looking in, it's just a football club. But the history that football club has got and the mentality that everybody who worked there at the time had, that advice left me in such good stead to go on and have a career.
Did you realise how big Arsenal was until you went into it?
As a fan, you realise, because I was just like any other kid, getting to shoot Match magazines and all that, getting the sticker book, sticker album and stuff like that, going to games when I could, around playing football, obviously. Seeing and meeting the first team changed my eyes, because we used to play at like schoolboy games at London Colney. And sometimes the first team were up like on pre-season training. They used to stop and come and watch some of the games, and they used to give you high fives and just watch the game. You can imagine you're a young kid coming through and seeing the first team, David O'Leary and Pat Jennings or whatever, all them guys are there watching the games. Tony Woodcock, Charlie Nicholas, had the privilege of cleaning Charlie Nicholas's boots, Lee, which you would have loved to have done that, right? Yeah. So
I'd give up Wembley appearances for that.
But that advice, and part of that was remember who you are, what you are, and who you represent. That is all part of being at the Arsenal and being part of that institution. So Pat Rice was always a massive advocate for Arsenal, and that was the best advice. He's a tinker man. Unai Emery is a tinker man who adopts his style to the opposition.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
Now, sometimes it will get you where you need to go. Hence the start, some of the early games last season where he tinkered and we got draws or we got wins. But what it also tells you, and this is the negative part of it, it always tells you that he doesn't know his best 11. Any manager, in my eyes, needs to know his best 11. Sometimes you have to forget the opposition and you've got to put your best 11 players on that football pitch and do the business. And sometimes you have to say, right, we know where the danger is from the opposition, but this is how we're going to set up. So, going back to the question, Unai Emery, his formation or his system or whatever is a Tinkerman system. Sometimes he'll play 4, sometimes he'll play 3 at the back. Sometimes he'll play 4 or 2 holders, 3 in front of them, 1 up top with Aubameyang, who's probably our most lethal striker, playing out of position. So his mentality is tinker. He tinkers with it, I think, a bit too much.
Yeah, see, this is the trouble. I think under Arsene Wenger, as a fan, we was dying for him to be a little bit more like that. You know what I mean?
More pragmatic.
Yeah, change. We're going to play Man United away instead of going gun home.
Stiffen things up
and look at the opposition. And we was crying out for that. And I think that Emery's come in so I quite like that. But he's gone too far the other way, So he needs to rein it in a little bit, and go from there. And I think that hopefully he will do, because if he doesn't, Kev, he's going to be in a spot of trouble.
He's going to be in trouble.
He's going to be in trouble.
Definitely not a penalty, and I thought 5.45.
Yeah, definitely.
To be honest with you,
definite dive. And
I mean, he looked embarrassed. I don't know if you saw the interview on Sky.
Well, yeah, he tried to get out of it.
He actually looked, but. Listen, he could say one thing, but the facials always give it away. He looked a bit embarrassed, to be honest, calling it a lazy challenge. It didn't even really touch him, to be honest. So it was never a penalty, and it was a.
Listen, take away the Harry Kane away from the Spurs thing. He's a good player. I like the way he plays the game. He's a good player. He's a nuisance to us, but he's getting a reputation of being a diver and not a very nice, the squeaky clean image of him is starting to go. Starting to wane a little bit,
no, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone.
It's gone as far as I'm concerned. It's
gone. He's done a few little things now that not quite showing up Mr. Kane as what he is, but definite dive. And listen, what worries me is that being who he is and that, he could have given that penalty. And if it was a penalty, and it was given, I don't think VAR would have taken it away. So he, conning the officials was something that VAR was supposed to be there for, and it chose not to do. So he should have been run over the coals for that.
But here's the other thing: if he wants a penalty and he dives and the referee sees it, why didn't he book him?
Well, exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
And this is the problem with everything to do with this VAR or referees and stuff. It's like the referees ain't actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because if he dives in the penalty box, he should get booked.
He's very clever how he does it as well, because he gets the contact himself, so he's not actually blatantly like falling over and diving, but he's diving. You know what I mean? So he's very clever. Is our Mr. Kane.
Simply, that's a really good question. I think Callum Chambers has been really unlucky not to be involved, especially after that performance he put in at Newcastle. I think Socrates has shown himself to not be as consistent as we need, even for a second string defender. I think Chambers should be knocking on the manager's door, going to see him and say, "Listen, get me in there."
Yeah,
I could do that job, and I would have got back and cleared up the lines so Eriksen couldn't get a tap in. I think it's time for Chambers now to step up and be counted, because I think he can play. I really do. I think he can play in there.
Yeah, I agree. I also got to say that we don't keep clean sheets. That's one thing we don't do. But when he was in the team, we kept a clean sheet. You know, and people go, "Oh, it's only Newcastle." But correct me if I'm wrong, Newcastle have scored in all their games since. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he wins his headers, he defends. And I look at it now and I think to myself, I can't understand why he's not been left out. People say that he can play him at right back as well. That would release. We were talking about that.
Talking about that before, yeah. Maitland-Niles
could then go into
midfield. I'd love to see him in midfield.
So yeah, you know, so that is something that he could do as well. It just seems again.
Young player.
I'm not trying to dig Emery out all the time. It seems like it's easier to leave him out than Socrates, and you know, again. I've watched Chambers. He hasn't made those sort of mistakes that Socrates has made. So I can't answer that question why he's been left out. But I think he's very hard done by. And I've got to say this: since he has been left out, he's shown a fantastic attitude. He's not sulked and all that. He's he's
got on head down, got on with the job.
Still working hard.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for watching the show. Me and Lee Judges will be back in a couple of weeks. Lee.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. I just want to say thanks for all the fantastic messages and everything like that.
And don't forget to leave the comments.
Yeah, leave the comments. All the nice ones as well, because we enjoy reading the nice ones.
So hopefully we get another upgrade. Thank you very much.